Uncle Tungsten, Memories of a Chemical Boyhood by Oliver Sacks. Oliver had many childhood memories of metals. He enjoyed metals like gold and copper and zinc, as well as metals such as tin, lead. He liked copper and tin because the way they formed to make bronze. He liked the idea of the spear to shield, bronze to bronze impact. He also liked the alloy made by copper mixing with zinc, which formed brass. His very fond memories of gold were its yellowness, its heaviness, the way it never tarnished, and its softness, just like lead. Oliver Sacks often was a curious boy. He bombarded his mother and his father and his brothers with any possible questions he could have, such as, how come the Shabbos candles had a center blue flame? Why water boiled, how it boiled, what happened as it was boiling. Also, he often questioned the mixing of sugar into tea. He questioned how the sun and the stars burned, and many, many other things. Oliver had two older brothers. He was the youngest of them. His mother and his father were also very present in his life. His Uncle Dave, who was also known as Uncle Tungsten, was also a very big influential impact on him. Uncle Tungsten was known as Uncle Tungsten for his delight in the element tungsten, as well as his hands that were often a dark color because of the usage of tungsten. He manufactured light bulbs with the tungsten filament, and Oliver often visited the factory and was escorted around to get to know everything. His grandfather, originally known as Mordecai Fredkin, lived in 1837 in a Russian village. He became known as Marcus Landau. In 1855, he, his wife, and his first children moved to England. He was very fascinated with the invention of lamps. This image reveals 13 out of his 18 children that he had in his lifetime. In the 1870s, his grandfather patented many lamps. He was very fascinated, like I said, with the invention of lamps. Many of his children followed in his shoes to pursue the physical sciences, but there were also some who went off and did human sciences rather than the physical sciences. Oliver grew up just before World War. He lived in northwest London. He lived in a house similar to this one right here. It was number 37 on the street. His parents were both physicians, and they did jobs similar to these right here in these images. In his home, there was a huge library that had tons and tons and tons of educational books, like that image right there. As physicians, he watched his parents much and understood their jobs, and many times looked beneath the crack on the floor just to see what they were doing. He also had a fascination with copper farthings, as well as the pieces of 8 for what they were made out of. The house was never decorated to their own desires. They had an aunt do it for them and paid her whatever she wanted. In September 1939, war broke out. There was heavy bombing, as shown in this picture, on the town that they lived in London. At this time, Oliver was only 6 years old. His parents sent him to a school that relocated in Brayfield, a town nearby, because the England community decided that children needed to be taken away, sent away from the bombing. While he was there, he experienced starvation. He experienced great beatings and bullying. The headmaster was completely unhinged by his power and just completely abused his right to be headmaster to these children. In December of 1940, within his first year there, he took a trip home. As he was there, he realized it was his safe haven. But there was so many bombings, and the family life was different. Many people had left. There were new things within the home. As he was there, he punished their dog. He loved the dog very much, but still, he locked her in a cold coal bin, just as a symbolism of his pain. but still his parents did not relate, and they sent him back. While he was there, he felt abandoned, he felt alone, he questioned the existence of God, he stopped praying, he would take visits to his Auntie Lynn for holidays, and she would help him with his excitement and desire for numbers. That was his refuge in his dark time at the school. In the spring of 1943, Brayfield was closed. He then went to St. Lawrence College. He doesn't remember much reality that happened there. While he was there, he made up many fantasies. He became very delusional. While he was there, his parents visited him, they found him, and they took him back home to the lovely, lovely home he once lived in. However, when he returned, the house was completely different. It was charred from, all the bombs that surround it. There was very few coal to fuel their fires as well. Shortly after his return home, Oliver visited his Uncle Tungsten, who, while Oliver was gone, continued his studies. At this time, there were the Edison light bulbs right here in his case, which had filaments of carbonized thread. Right here reveals the osmium light bulbs that were also in the case that Oliver looked at, and right here the turn-of-the-century light bulbs. As well as these things, he also saw many new elements he hadn't seen. He had heard of platinum, that his uncle explained it to him, the traits and all that stuff. As he was going on, he also learned of some new metals, which are shown right here in the picture, such as osmium, iridium, and such like that. Also, while talking to his uncle, he learned of alumina and oxidized calcium. His uncle always, though, went back to tungsten for its high melting point, its toughness larger than steel, and its strength at high temperatures. To him, tungsten was revealed as the ideal metal. While working with his uncle Tungsten, Oliver also learned of the thermite process, which is revealed right here in this photo. It's a process that generates extreme heat, 3,000 degrees or more, which is used to melt the tungsten. It creates difficult metals like the chromium and the zirconium. A huge figure in the lives of Oliver, as well as his uncle Tungsten, was this man right here, Mr. Skeel, I suppose that's how you say it. He epitomized the romance science for Oliver. After, spending so much time and learning so much with his uncle, Oliver realized that he wanted to become a chemist. His uncle continued to educate him over everything. He taught him Mr. Welshbach right here. He experimented with many oxidized elements or whatever. In 1891, he found the ideal mixture and began using that. Another great pioneer in the invention of light bulbs and such, electrical light bulbs, was Mr. Edison right here. Picture Edison's ode to the creator of the tantalum bulbs. The final product was made in 1913 by Langmuir, who realized that a tight cooled filament was needed. Uncle Tungsten's bulbs and his taste for improvement made Oliver want to create his own lighting system.